Welcome to our channel, The Awakening Truth. Today, episode 2. Today, we'll be looking at a topic, Christianity and colonization in Africa. The theme we want to dwell on today says salvation or colonization. I repeat, salvation is Christianity, salvation or colonization. Let's dive into this in a bit. Was Christianity a message of salvation or a weapon to colonize Africa? Missionaries and the colonizers. Missionaries and the colonizer. The missionary often arrive before the soldiers. They came with the Bible in their hands, preparing the ground for the colonizer with guns. What do I mean? They were aware of the powers the Africans possess. So what do they need to do to be able to colonize these people that has this magic, this power, this ancestral power, this ancestral belief? They came with the missionaries to do what? To preach the message of peace, the message of salvation, to prepare the ground for the soldiers, those ones with those day guns, those Mark IVs, to come in to do what? To colonize our people. They preach the message in Matthew chapter 28, verse 19, in that book. In that book. Go there and make disciples of all nations. But discipleship was twisted into dominations instead of liberation. It became a justification for conquest. Africa, spirituality, medicines, traditions were demonized, branded as pagan, witchcraft. In Exodus chapter 22, verse 18, ye shall suffer not a witch to live. You shall suffer not a witch to live. Was used to silence and kill indigenous healers, priests, and our spiritual leaders that we have them that preserve our cultures. This was not just for religious purpose, it was cultural erasures, striving Africa of its scarce identities. The church became alliance to the empires, to the emperors, to the monarchs, the queens, the kings, and so on and so forth. From the pulpit in Romans chapter 13, verse 1 to say, verse 1 was preached, let everyone be subjected to the governing authority, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The colonials, rulers, were painted as divinely chosen ones. Faith was weaponized to keep Africa in domiciled obedience to what? To those rulers, to those empires, rather than to God. I read that scripture again. It says, let everyone be subjected to the governing authority, for there is no authority except that which God has established. So they are not telling you that those emperors, those kings, those queens, they will be painted as what? Divine choosing ones by God. And faith was now a medium to what? Weaponize the Africa to be perpetually what? Obedient and a slave to the authorities of these emperors, of these kings and queens, painted there that they were chosen by God. So you have to obey them because it is God that said so. The missionary schools taught obedience, not empowerment. They brought, how can we enter into these people, into their children, into the young ones, into the mind of those missionaries, teachers that came into the schools. They were teaching us how to be obedient, how to be submissive to what? To our earthly masters, even though they are enslaving us, even though they are killing us. We need to be what? Obedient to them, not for empowerment. Ephesians 6 verse 5 says, slave, obey your earthly master with fear and trembling. Was repeated until it sank into the mind of our people. Our history was rewritten. Margot Park discovered this. Your cultural history was redefined. Your community names, native names were renames. Our history were rewritten. Our heroes were forgotten. We started saying, Logloga did this, so person did this. Our heroes were what? Were forgotten. This was the master plan. And they came and it was achieved. In place of our truths, colonials narrative were taught, training Africa to serve, not to lead. So Christianity in colonial Africa is about salvation and more about control. It was faith entangled with power, with emperors, with kings, with monarchs. A gospel of not freedom, but a gospel of domination. It reshaped Africa into identity taught through a foreign lens. Whatever they were teaching us were being shiny from the foreign scenes. They tell us, they dictate what to do, they tell us what to do. They will be the one to tell us what we are doing is not right. This is not what God said. And remember, this book was written by people and compiled by canons. Compiled by canons. It is not the directive of God, but it made us to believe that this is the constitution of God. This is what God said. And they also said in that book that nobody should add to it and nobody should remove from it. But they, the canons, the council, were able to remove the book of Enoch, some book of seven book of Moses, some other books. They were able to remove it. They were book they burned. They were book they buried because it did not suit their own narrative. But they are telling you, you should not add to it, you should not remove from it. Let's move on. We must ask ourselves, was Christianity in Africa truly for salvation? Or was it meta and cultural colonization in disguise as faith? This is the question I want you to ask yourself. Sit down on a quiet time and think. Be awoken. Remember, I am not against your religion. I'm not against your belief. Neither am I against your ministry. I am not against your church business, the business of the Lord. I am not against it. I am here to do what I am asked to do on this earth. Every being has a mission to this earth, which must be fulfilled. My mission is to awaken the people, to let them know that they are God, that they don't need a mediator to communicate to the Creator. I remain your host. Share, subscribe, like, and share. Bye for now.